How's it going, guys? So I've received a lot of requests from people to watch the last ride, Undertaker's last ride on the network, and I've only seen some clips so far. And the big news at the end of the whole thing, Undertaker kind of, in a way, retires, and an official retirement was announced. He kind of leaves it a bit open-ended and says, well, if Vince McMahon really needed me and I was in a tight spot, and we're going to get to that in a moment about McMahon being in a tight spot, but he says, this cowboy is going to ride off, and this is the thing here. Taker should have been riding off a long time ago. This guy has given to the business like no one else has. He's stuck through Vince McMahon, through thick and thin for 30 years. And it's really reached a point where I've said we're not going to have another wrestling boom period. If it hasn't been obvious by now, then it's never going to be obvious to you ever, okay? So this is the thing. I mean, how much further do we have to be from the Attitude Era for people to realize that this has not been popular since the Attitude Era? The ratings were falling. As much as people like to go back to the Ruthless Aggression Era, and so do I, it was not as good as the Attitude Era. They did have some good characters, but not nearly as many people got over as they did in the Attitude Era. And, you have your John Cena's, your Batistas that are very successful now in Hollywood. Batista even more so, just getting a tremendous amount of work and just being in different action movies. But, no one has really gotten over like they did in the Attitude Era. And the most important thing, the ratings are not as high. So when I sit here and I listen to people talk and they live in the fantasy world and saying like, oh, all we have to do is this and that, and they've been doing whatever this and that is for so long and it's not been working. I see all these different theories, all these harebrained theories of what they think will make the product better. You see some people think having more matches or better matches is going to do it. There's been a lot of good matches. Yeah, there has, even in the terrible couple of decades that we've had now of this product. This whole decade, from 2010 to 2020 has been pathetic. I mean, it's been horrible. And during this stretch of time, can we really say that we've really built any huge megastars? I mean, there's a few, I guess. The Miz has a successful show on E. Some of the divas or the women have gotten, over to the point where the E Network wanted to have them in their own show. But can we really say that anyone has really reached the status of a Rock or a Stone Cold Steve Austin or somebody like that, or a Hulk Hogan? No, it has not been close, and there's never been anyone quite like that. And we see when we look on the network, that's why they have specials on the Attitude Era. That's why they keep going back to all these old characters. Hey, remember these guys that were over? Well, how about the guys now? I mean, you just look at an episode of Raw now, and, never mind the current scenario and everything, because that's not their fault, but they could be doing a lot better. They could be trying to be a lot more creative, and maybe in certain ways they might be doing certain things like the Jeff Hardy angle, but they're never done well. Okay? Maybe the only thing, like I said, that was actually good was certain aspects of WrestleMania. And you could go back and watch my reviews of the two parts of WrestleMania from this year. And, you had the John Cena and the Bray Wyatt stuff. And you had Undertaker and AJ Styles. So, they always gotta rely on Undertaker to come back. And it's not always gold. It's not always the best thing, even when Taker gets involved. Does anyone even remember the fact that Shawn Michaels came out of retirement 2 years ago to wrestle Undertaker and Kane with Triple H by his side? I was like thinking about that the other day. I'm like, does anyone even remember that? Like, does that even technically count? Well, of course it does. But I mean, look, that's how forgettable it is. We can't even remember something from just a few years ago. That's how terrible it is. And so the Undertaker had to come into Mania after they left him out of last year's show, didn't even consider him for that show. And when they realized that, that they don't know what the hell to do, they've got their backs against the wall, what happens? They reach out to Undertaker. Oh, can you please do the show and deliver the most memorable segment on there, even though you're 55 years old? And the guys that are in their 20s and 30s, when the Undertaker was setting the wrestling world on fire and getting himself over in front of millions of fans, you've got these guys, and they have no idea what they're doing. All they could think to do is flip. That's all they could do. Oh, maybe I should flip a few more times, and maybe wrestling will be more popular. Well, I don't think that's happening, Herman. That's not ever going to happen. With these mindsets and these people that are currently involved in the management, I mean, you see Vince McMahon going back to Bruce Pritchard of all people, even though that this man has failed them time and time again. And, I think we see with Paul Heyman, I mean, here's the guy, unless you want to believe the theory that, Vince McMahon just doesn't let any of Paul Heyman's great ideas come through. I mean, could it be that all these guys are just tired and they just don't have it in them anymore? Could it be that? I mean, seriously, when I look back, I mean, it seems to me like only Vince Russo and Brian Jurwitz seemed like they had any good ideas at all. Like, seriously, like those were the only people actually writing stimulating television with actually some compelling characters. Do you notice that we're so far removed from all that? That people don't even seem to focus on that it's the writing. It doesn't matter. Like, they have talented people. You've got guys like Elias that are just wasting away. You've got guys like Bray Wyatt where they're going back to his original character because they failed on the Fiend. I mean, does anyone realize that? I mean, the Undertaker sees this. I think this is why, and this is what I'm getting at by mentioning all these other things. I think that people don't even realize that, but the Undertaker has already gone on record saying he's not a fan of the way that the WWE is doing business with these guys and these NXTers, and pretty much Triple H's entire vision for the product and the way how they're going, where we can just compensate by having really long flippy dippy woo-da matches and stuff like that. I mean, does anyone realize that, like, Undertaker's, there was supposed to be a retirement when he wrestled Roman Reigns. I mean, obviously the symbolism was there, but people didn't like the match, so the Undertaker, he didn't like the match either, and he felt bad for Roman having to have that type of match with him. Despite the botches, I really didn't think it was that bad, really. I was entertained by it, but I could see why they would want to have a better match. The Undertaker takes pride in his work, and he doesn't want to have a match with certain, botches in it. Okay, that's fine. But, I mean, talk about this, like, this is 3 years removed from that, and even more than 3 years, 3.5 years removed from that. And now, Undertaker's talking about retirement. It's like, I'm listening to this and I'm like, first of all, I can't even believe the guy anymore. I'm sorry to say it, with all due respect to Undertaker, this amazing legend, one of the greatest of all time, one of my favorites of all time. And when he says it, I don't believe him, because all it will take is Vince McMahon to say, when, things go back to normal and they're headed to their next show in Saudi Arabia, all it's going to take is, hey, would you like to come out of retirement to wrestle Sting, if that ever happens? And the answer will probably, obviously, be yes. because, we all thought that The Undertaker wouldn't have even gone to Saudi Arabia in the first place, and he ended up going. We didn't think Shawn Michaels would come out of retirement. The almighty dollar holds a lot of weight. And like I said, if we were in that position ourselves, would we be able to say no? I don't think so. So that's what I'm trying to say. I don't really believe what was said there. And the fact that Taker leaves it open-ended, I mean, you never want to say never. But the way he left it there, it's like they just kind of needed a good cap off to the documentary. But, but the way I see it is Taker's getting the hell out of there. Because, first of all, I don't know what they're even doing. They're holding back. Even though they're allowed to have a 50% crowd, they're still not doing it. Okay, you could say maybe they're doing it for health reasons. Okay, fine. But they weren't even taking, like, the necessary precautions that were recommended to them anyway. I don't know. There's all rumors. Who even knows what's going on? But now, like, you see that, I mean, this, I don't know how early this was all taped and done and produced and everything, but you've got all these wrestlers being accused of different things. You've got Austin Theory, what's that other guy in NXT that's extremely popular with the marks, the black guy with the glasses, I can't even remember his name. That guy's in big trouble. You've got other people being accused on the roster, and Matt Riddle. Oh yeah, there's also Matt Riddle as well. Just this guy just getting fresh off an accusation at the moment. So I don't know. Taker sees that this business is just coming apart at the seams. It's totally out of control. You've got the concussion stuff, you've got so many other things, questionable releases, just the stuff in Saudi Arabia with them on the plane. I mean, you don't think that Taker sits back and looks at all this? If there was ever a time to get the hell out of this business, it would be now. The ratings are in the toilet. They've been in the toilet. They've been in the toilet for a very long time. I mean, it's like we're all talking about bad ratings. Like, these ratings are not good ratings. And people can make all the excuses they want, DVR, watching it online, streaming it, whatever the case may be. But even though there's other shows that still get good ratings on TV, because if it's, like Vince McMahon even said himself, if it's good, people will watch it. Well, it's not good, so people are not watching it. So you see right there what I'm trying to say? Come on, guys. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this stuff out. It's been bad. It's been lousy. And The Undertaker realized it because he's sick of being the only one actually putting an effort, into his show, because they give him a little, like, creative freedom. So, and everything else is just strictly by the writers. And he has to, so it's like he's the only one. And Vince has to keep running back to him, begging a guy that debuted at the very beginning of the 90s. I mean, come on. Are you telling me, like, this is the best that you can do? You got to keep going back to these guys. The guys that you got over, I mean, do you maybe want to look at and see why these characters got over? Maybe because you need guys of a certain mentality. Maybe because you need certain people in creative. And I understand that Bruce Pritchard had a hand in the Taker. In The Undertaker, he was there at his side when he debuted. So I could see why people might think that Bruce Pritchard is like a good genius mind, that he's the right person, but he's not. Quite obviously, he is not. And Taker sees this. Like I said, the man, he's got a brain. He's got two eyes. He sees what's happening. He has 2 ears. He hears what's happening. He sees a business in peril, and he's getting out. He loves it. He's getting choked up. I understand. I get it. We could clearly see that. But really, it's really, really bad. This is not a good look for the business, and there's no signs of improving. We hear, Road Dogg being so busy talking about being politically correct, But then you've got all these wrestlers being accused of all these things. Who knows if they're true? And even if they are or they aren't, they're still a flaming car wreck. So with that being said, you know, this company has a lot of things to iron out. And before you stop and say, oh, well, AEW, well, they have a host of their own problems. I mean, Tony Khan is, you know, he's got people tweeting stuff at him from the Jaguars, from the football team, and they're all like fed up and angry. And, you know, this guy's trying to juggle, you know, two different things at once and ending up looking like a total goofball. So I don't want to hear anyone say anything about Tony Khan. This is about Taker. This is about the WWE. And like I said, I don't foresee me really anytime soon watching this product, you know, in a full-time capacity. Because there's nothing to watch. This is an empty arena. Once in a while, they do one or two little skits. Like I said, there's Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, and you could kind of give them credit for doing something a little edgy. But there's like no edge to the edginess because it's done bad. It's done horribly. It's done in the cheesy, unbelievable way. So, you know, Undertaker is looking at all of this and he's just saying basically to himself, I'm sure if the product was still good and he was being offered to stay there, but the truth is they wouldn't need him at the rate that they do need him, you know, if the product was actually good. They wouldn't even need to call on him. They wouldn't even need to ask him to do matches at Mania. You know, when he's been there at the really early WrestleManias and he's still competing. I mean, what was it? WrestleMania 7 when he was facing Jake Roberts? You know, or Jimmy Snuka? Like, and we're still like WrestleMania 36 and watching Undertaker wrestle. You know, like, he has to be responsible for, you know, helping guys like AJ Styles to actually get over. Like, I mean, I do not understand how they think they could just keep going like this. And do they actually think that they're, like, going to get better eventually? Because no, at this current progression rate, the way how they are going, this pattern, they must see that things only get progressively worse for them. And now they've really dipped down into the lower levels. And they're not going to be recovering anytime soon. So, do I think The Undertaker is coming back? I would say, you know, if there's Saudi Arabia, you know, in a few years, I could definitely see that happening. But, you know, Taker's been slowing down. Like I said, you know, one WrestleMania, he wasn't even there. I don't know. The WWE right now, I don't even know what's going to happen with them. They're in a really, really, really tight spot right now. A lot of accusations. They've already got this huge, massive pandemic problem on their hands. And they've got a huge, you know, and they're so busy wanting to look good for everybody. You know, they got everybody's promos scripted. God forbid they say the wrong thing. So it's, you know, we don't even know at this point what could happen with the future of someone like The Undertaker. WWE is always, you know, backpedaling. They're always declining steadily backwards, never forwards. So it's going to be an endless problem. You know what I mean? They always repeat the same mistakes over and over, and I guess they expect a different result, which is the very definition of insanity. And we all know that Vince McMahon is definitely insane. So with that said, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you get all notifications when I post all my new videos. And I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. And, you know, guys, I don't know. We will do some wrestling videos in the future. But like I said, they're going to be very few and far between. This is a big milestone event of The Undertaker retiring. One that I really can't take so seriously. But, you know, I had to talk about it here. But, you know, enjoy the other content on this channel. I'm, you know, progressively posting tons and tons of video game content. You're going to have music reviews. You're going to have movie reviews. You know, once I could get back to the movie theaters, I could also review some old movies too. But it's going to be a lot of game content moving forward, as it has been, because that's what I enjoy talking about. That's what I enjoy making videos about. This is not very enjoyable to talk about anymore. This has been enjoyable to do, to communicate with you here in this video, but I don't have the desire really to talk about any other aspect of the WWE or AEW or anything wrestling. So, guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.